Meeker, if you could call the roll.
I would be happy to. Ms. Boucher.
Here.
Ms. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Cotton.
Here.
Ms. Hastings.
Here.
Ms. Higgins.
Here.
Mr. Richards.
Here.
Miss Robinson.
Here.
Ms. Walsh.
Here.
And I am here. We are all in attendance.
Great. Before we begin, although this meeting is not a public hearing, there is a member of the public who would like to address us if the board is willing to give him a couple of minutes. Just a second, let me see if everybody? Sure. Okay, if you could come up to the table
Can we acknowledge
and
the
take a
time?
microphone.
Can we acknowledge the time?
Right.
There you are. We need you to have a mic, so there you are.
How many minutes?
Yeah. Yeah. If you could keep it to 3 minutes, please?
Oh, yeah, no, I'll be a lot less than that. I'd like to delay my comments because I got some new information from Jack and the superintendent. So I need to put that into my talk. So I'll be
Great.
here on Wednesday, I guess, at 7 o'clock.
Okay, or we're going to have a whole public hearing on the
Right.
budget. If you would like to do that
Yeah.
then, would probably be
Yes.
the more appropriate
Yeah.
time.
No, but with the added information, I need to go back and
Okay,
reassemble something.
that sounds great. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Sargent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. With that, Superintendent, are we turning it over directly to Mr. Dunn?
We are. We're going to let Jack just begin.
Okay, we'll try to do a little crash course in a couple items. So this presentation is on your folder. It is also posted on the website along with the full budget detail as well. So I'm just going to give you a quick update from the last meeting. I have 2 slides that I just wanted to review. Again, we'll highlight the enrollments because enrollments drive staffing. We'll talk about the positions that are in, the positions that were requested and that are not in, and a contracted service. Salaries, benefits, revenues, transfers, fees that the district charges and collects, and then we'll review the work session schedule, state where all the public information is, and that'll be the end of my presentation, and then there is a non-public session for you. So quickly for updates, I just want to highlight that this was what was originally presented to you on the first day. So you see these 2 numbers were the same. We have added in the other grants that are part of this. So I just wanted you to know that that's the way it will be posted because these are the SAMHSA grant, the McKinney-Vento. I reviewed that with Ellen, and we added those numbers into there. Normally I just have the entitlement ones, which are they're always consistent, but we added in the competitive grants that we know are going to be multi-year, okay? So for this was what was originally presented. Notice, remember I had my, you think you're calling the snow? No, I'm just kidding.
Taking photos.
So this was what was presented to you on that day. I just wanted to highlight this number here and the crossed out items on the next slide. So what we did is we fixed the corrected slide to reflect the particular items that went up, okay? And also, this number was 2509. It should have been 2510. That's what totals the 107, 810, 169. So that was it. I just want to let you know they've been corrected and we posted. I'll move on to enrollments. This will all look similar, but we did put a slide together for you. You have a green piece of paper, so it's nice and big to be able to look at. But just to review, this is your class size policy. A copy of this policy is on the bottom of this sheet. There's a little bit of 10-year history. Again, we did this on Monday. Again, what the contingency is made up of. And then this particular is on screen, but we thought it might be helpful to have it in front of you. This is a side-by-side comparison showing what the enrollments are in January of 24 and what the staff count is and the average class size. And then the blue column shows you the 24-25 projected class size. I'll turn that over to you to let you discuss or answer any questions.
Yeah, let's walk through it. I think that's probably the best way to do it. I mean, we broke it out by schools, specifically at the elementary schools. Now, your probably question is, why haven't we seen the high school and the middle school? Well, the numbers haven't really substantially changed there. And because of the team approach to the middle school, those 4 teachers all stay in place for each of the teams, so you don't see much of a change. At the high school level, remember, I talked to Dr. Herbert, Tim, this week, and we will have all of the sign-ups for the high school February 23rd, which is the day we all go out for a break. But that'll give us time to really analyze that. And we'll look at that. And so Tim and I have been talking about what might happen up there. So there will be still some work to be done around staffing as I get those numbers, and we will bring them to you, both at the high school and at the Career and Technical Center. So just hold off. But the one that's pretty steady is the elementary in front of you. So that's what I wanted to kind of review with you today. You know that over the course of 10 years, you saw it on the document that Jack shared last Monday around the history. We have lost up to 300 and plus youngsters at the elementary. So you got to think about that, right? As it relates to the needs around staffing. So we're cognizant of that. And so if you look at Abbott Downing, you can just follow that right across the total number of students they have currently versus what we'll have next year. Remember, that's in the blue section. There's down a few, but nothing that will impact the class sizes. And beneath it, you'll see all the class sizes. For instance, I anticipate 45 in kindergarten next year, 15 per kindergarten class. You can't reduce that. You can't say, okay, well, we'll only have 2 kindergarten classes and there'll be 22 and a half. You can't do that. It's over your policy. And so it remains at 3, even though you might say 15 is pretty low, but you can't reduce a class. So we kind of look at that too. Can we reduce, or do we have to keep it where it is? And so for Abbott Downing, it all remains the same. Do you see how to follow this chart? I want to make sure you have that. Then we went to Beaver Meadow and we looked at the numbers at Beaver Meadow. We know that currently in third grade, kindergarten, there are 39 youngsters with three clusters, 3 classes. Those 39 moved to first grade. And so with 39 in first grade, you can see that we could reduce, not this is information for you, but that does drop to 2. Because it would be within the range that you have for primary and first grade, which is 18 to 24, and this would fall in 19 and a half. Well, there's not a half a student, but one would be 19 and one would be 20, right? So again, falls within the average class size that you have, which is 18 to 24. And the rest of it pretty much remains the same. I know that we've watched Beaver Meadow. I know Brenda has brought that to my attention, Jim too, about watching the numbers at Beaver Meadow. But we think we're okay there. But you can see the changes that are occurring in terms of the number in the classes. We're going to maintain the same number of students and the same number of classes up at the upper end at Beaver Meadow. And we can do that by moving teachers. You don't keep the teachers in the same grade level. You can move them around. Principals will make those decisions in collaboration with the classroom teachers. So there's a possibility right there at Beaver Meadow where we could reduce by 1 at that school. At Broken Ground, we looked at those numbers. Again, if you follow across, if you look at 4th grade, is 87, next year 86. I think the number just changed on the enrollment. I'll have to double check that, but it's within 1. You don't. This year we have 6 sections in grade 5, at Broken Ground. And with only 86 in that class, we could reduce it down, and it's still, the class size is very reasonable for a fifth grade, which is 17. And your range is 22 to 20 to 28, so you're well within that range. I'm just looking to see if anybody has any questions or is unsure of any of the data. Right?
No, but 86 divided by 4 would take it to
20.
21 and a half,
I-
which is well within that range.
I know.
But 86, even 86 by 5 would get you 17.
That's what I have.
But I'm saying by 4
Yeah.
would get you 21 and a half.
Yeah. So we can discuss that. We can talk about that.
Oh, I'm looking at previous year.
17.
No.
I think that teacher at that grade level.
Yeah.
Just
Well, then the
and-
66 at Beaver Meadow could go to 4, right? Because they're at 22, and if you're not willing to go to 21 and a half, why would you go to 22?
Oh, good. Maybe we have to put more teachers in then.
Man, that would be changing our guidelines.
Which I would strongly advocate for.
Different topic.
I know.
Any other comments? I mean, this is the data that we wanted to provide for you so that you could help make decisions. And certainly I'll make recommendations.
Well, one comment that I would make is I think I agree with Mr. Richards that, I'm looking at this and you're recommending, I think, no change in the number of teachers. But then I look down at Millbrook and we're taking 2 out there.
Right.
And it just doesn't quite jive why we wouldn't take 1 out at Broken Ground too. But that's my only comment.
And are we
Thank you.
increasing a teacher at Krista McCullough? Yeah.
So remember when last year, we had pulled 1 teacher from Krista, remember? We reduced it. We were all a little concerned about the number and would it fluctuate because that year was only 49 kindergartens. So we trying to anticipate, the growth and why the drop. But of course, Murphy's Law prevailed and the numbers went up to 60 plus in kindergarten. So I did have to hire another teacher. But remember, we used the contingency fund. And so that position really has to go back into the budget because the contingency is for any, as Jack portrayed in one of the slides, that's the sort of the fallback if something happens and we have a sudden increase and I need to provide a teacher based on the numbers. So that position will remain in the budget now for that one that I included. I'm going to say that I anticipate around somewhere in the 60s range for Krista McAuliffe for next year. Does that all make sense to you? And then the last one is Millbrook, and you can see that we did drop teachers at Millbrook down to 5, given the, and that's in grade 2, and again, well within your range of numbers for the students in that group. The one number I want to be careful about, the one number that I've been perplexed with, and I've done all kinds of, we talked about it I don't know how many times, is that kindergarten number at Millbrook at 78. It just seems low. But, remember now, I was using the NESDEC survey, right, and also the Davis demographic report that was done as a 10-year picture and a look at our district. So I was using those documents to help me figure out what we need for what the numbers would be. It is rolling the dice a little bit, it's not an exact science. I wish it were, but you don't know who's going to knock on your door and who's going to come, and you don't know who's going to leave.
Yeah.
So would this be another situation where your contingency? fund
Yeah,
come
it
into
would,
play?
yeah.
Yeah.
If you support the budget allocation for contingency, it would easily allow me to 2 teachers. Sometimes there's a little extra, and we've used additional hours for speech and language when all the IDEA money, he used all his IDA money. We've also used it for additional hours, as you know, occupational therapy, which was a big issue, especially in the lower grades. So I've used that in that way to try to continue to provide those services.
So Jim had raised the question about the second grade at Millbrook, but the kindergarten, going down one section would put it in line with Abbott Downing and Krista McAuliffe in terms of class size.
Right.
Which year?
Like I said, though, that number,
Next year?
PM,
Yeah,
is,
Next year
is
for kindergarten.
I'm suspect to that number in kindergarten at Millbrook, but
Yeah, it looks really low.
it looks low compared to what we've experienced. But then again, when you look at second grade, it was 86, so it's only off by 6, 7, 8 students. So it could be a reality, but we don't have good data there. And again, we know that there's drops in enrollment based on the demographic studies that we've done.
Could it potentially be that families just are not thinking about kindergarten right now?
Well, no, they're not. We
Yeah.
will pretty soon here do, the enrollment. And
Yep.
parents will come in and register the youngsters and all that. But, honestly, that process continues right up to the day
Yeah, I
before
know.
school.
I know, it's
And,
such an.
and you wonder
It's a moving target.
they just don't pay much attention to it until school's going to open. So I want to be careful, but also want to be sensitive to the impact. We've talked about this over and over again. Nearly 80% of your budget is based on staff, and there's not a lot of places for us to really go. I mean, we've talked about, I know, but they want to know what's for dinner tonight, so I'm gonna pass on that one. I'm only
Whatever they
kidding.
make.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was
Cereal is a
my
meal.
daughter. Yeah, my daughter. What's that recipe?
Yeah.
I think that we want to move forward too, and you have some things that you have talked about. How do you move forward? If and still try to keep the taxes and your concerns about the tax rate. We heard that loud and clear last week.
Yeah.
It was very clear to us where you want to be. You didn't give us a number. I wished you had, but there's only so many places that you can really play with this budget. And it's all around personnel, and because I was just going to use Kim as an example. She has a recommendation around math, right? And so that money she's recommending come out of the instructional trust fund. So it's not even going to impact the budget. So we're actually doing things for youngsters around resources and materials. Includes also the cell proposal that they're recommending for a new cell program, K-8. And where does that come from? Doesn't come from your operational budget. She's asking that it be addressed in your instructional trust. So the place that you have at all to do anything with your budget is really in personnel. And we were really sensitive. We know that you have a number of things on your plate, the HVAC systems on your plate. Next week we have another hearing around Memorial Field. It's just, we recognize the number of things that you have to deal with, so. I hope this chart is helpful. Kudos to this guy next to me, of course, and helping. We worked through that this week, and we thought this would be a better visual for you. Hopefully it is.
The one teacher that you're recommending going down, is that already been accounted for in the budget, or no?
One teacher going down.
This
I
chart,
see two of them.
Two
I see
teachers
two
are
going
accounted for one.
We
No.
accounted for one, and we
that's
still
true.
have some that we want to further discuss with you.
because they've added back in Krista
Yeah.
McAuliffe, so
Yeah.
it's a net.
Okay.
So it's a net one. Yeah.
So that is included in the budget or not?
Yes,
Yes. Okay.
that one.
Going down,
Yeah.
going away.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll see it when we get to it.
Okay.
I am,
I'm sorry if I wasn't clear.
yeah.
I'm inclined to recommend that we go down one at Broken Ground as well. It just, the numbers
In the fifth grade?
Fifth grade.
I guess I would say, encourage us to think about what schools do, and it's about learning and teaching students, and before we cut teachers, I'd like to see the rest of the budget and see, are there other areas that we could make some cuts so that we aren't affecting the student to teacher ratio.
Yeah, the face-to-face of
Yeah, I
learning.
mean, that is why.
That's teaching. That's learning is your time
And
with a
it's been
teacher.
shown that smaller class sizes impact student learning.
Don't we also have to take into account retirements and such? Like, have we already figured all that in? We know who's retiring or do
Oh,
we
right,
not?
you mean in terms of doing any layoffs or anything with
Right.
teachers? We've already figured that out. We don't anticipate any RIF, Barb, at this
Okay.
time.
So it would just be
because of
moving them around.
retirements and resignation or whatever, people moving on, but mostly retirements.
Where are the 6 math coaches in here?
Well, we're gonna talk about that. We
And
didn't
to your-
use 6, but.
To your point, I get it, but I also think that, you know, we have other schools that have larger class sizes for the same grade to say, so we're not gonna, you know, and I can't be perfect
You know, it
because the
can't be perfect,
numbers,
But I don't think we can look at each school and say, well, you have so many for second grade, so you get, there are different needs at different schools, and I heard at a meeting today at Broken Ground that there are several classrooms, second graders, who have students who aren't potty trained yet. I mean, they're dealing with different issues in different buildings.
And that was something that came to my mind, having taught at a school that doesn't exist anymore, but our fourth grade kids and third grade kids came to school with a lot less resources from home. So a class of 20 at Walker School versus a class of 20 at Kimball School,
Very different
completely different
classroom.
beast.
That's
And you
an
have to be
evaluation.
careful saying
that's a
that.
You
huge.
can't,
that's-
numbers are telling, but they don't tell the whole story.
Right, right, it's just a
So,
number.
not to-
Superintendent, may I ask you a question?
Yeah, yes.
Number of Title I people at Broken Ground and the number, percentages at Beaver Meadow,
Well,
which is the.
Broken Ground has a much larger entitlement via Title I. I don't have those numbers, I can get them for you, but we have more staff at Broken Ground with paying, supported by Title I than we do at Beaver Meadow, just
Which is
because of
kind
the
of what comes to mind for
entitlement.
me.
But
Yeah.
Beaver Meadow
I mean,
got a
Broken.
lot of issues, just like.
And I'm not saying we shouldn't
Broken
increase that size as well, but, you know, maybe we don't get math coaches this year when that comes up, and we put teachers into classrooms instead. I don't know. That's a decision we'll have to make, but
Right.
it's something to consider is what I'm suggesting.
And
Fair enough.
And, you know, I do recognize the needs at different schools. There's no question about it. I mean, they are different. And I understand that. So I am sensitive to that, especially as it relates to Millbrook and to Broken Ground. And that's why, with all due respect, Jim, I didn't go one more at 86 to make it 22, even though it fills into that range. I thought that was a lot. So I only did one. Or you can see only one.
in terms of items, I think that we will want to revisit as we make final decisions. I think this should be on the list. I've heard a number of people want it, so.
Right, well, that's why tonight was to present this to you for your consideration as you go through the next several nights, right, to look at all the expenditures. And we recognize what's on your plate. Any other questions on that?
The only other one that I would raise is, frankly, Abbott Downing is, I mean, again, if you look at the objective of class sizes, you look at intermediate 4 to 6 from 22 to 28, and Abbott Downing, 5th grade is 17. Why?
Well, it's a weird number though, because if you divided it by 2, you have 26,
Yeah,
and now we're really at the top end. I mean, it does say 28, but you have no place to go if a family moves in or 2 families move in.
Yeah.
The likelihood of that staying 17,
Yeah.
sometimes is minor.
and that's exactly
So
right,
that's-
Barb.
what do you do?
Some
Okay.
places I couldn't
Good
go
point.
to because the number grew too large.
Good point, okay.
Thank you.
Richard on?
Okay.
Superintendent?
Move on, just to reiterate again, because enrollments drive it. This is just what Runlet is at the moment, and I think there'll be more information coming to you on this. This was from, again, the opening presentation. And again, the high school, March 13th, as superintendent said, we'll be getting on the 23rd, enrollments into classes will end, and they will start beginning then.
So let me talk a little bit more about middle school. This is with the principal's first year and getting accustomed to schedules and all of the model. I didn't mess around too much with it, but we've been talking about ways in which we can look at their enrollment, right? By developing perhaps like at sixth grade, two-person team where you have somebody who's social studies and English language arts. And usually you can see that combination. And then, especially with sixth grade, and then math and science. So I see that for a couple of reasons, I like that model. Especially for our youngsters that are really nervous about going to middle school and they get very anxious, right? And if you have a smaller setting, that would also give me a chance to look at how many teachers do I need when I'm breaking up those teams. Because remember, each one of those numbers that Jack put up there are divided by 3 sections. So you divide grade 6 by 3. So each cluster, if you will, do you know what I mean by that? Each cluster is 90 youngsters. So it's another way for us, for Mr. Richard and I to look at how we might look at those numbers. But I've sort of been a little bit, his first year, he's getting accustomed to it. He's working on a new schedule. So I didn't do too much with that and left it the way it is. Thank you.
Okay. Again, high school will be Wednesday, March 13th. You want to speak to this too? You had asked about the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this was apparently asked about.
Yeah.
As it relates to education freedom accounts and what that impact has been. In the. And now, sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry. In the analysis that the state sends us, I don't know why, and I did reach out to them, why in 2024 they did not provide a tab that showed the number of students. They just provided me a dollar amount. So I'm not sure why, but as soon as we get that, we'll update it. But superintendent asked that this be provided to you so you knew what that impact.
Just remember, in the first year of it, we were reimbursed at 100%, right? They felt like they thought a lot of students would leave, and as a result, this significant decrease in our adequacy amount would cause hardship to the school districts. So we got 100%. This year, we received 50%. So the number, only 50% of adequacy. And then next year, that number represents 25%. So that, and then the following year, by the way, 0. So this will be the last, unless, of course, legislation can change that. I was more interested, to be honest, with the students, because you don't know what that number represents.
Because there's differentiated aid that has to be included. No kid gets the same amount.
Right, and all are in a different place. So I was more interested in the numbers. We'll get that number for you in 24, and anticipate only several students in the next year. So, and this came from the department, so it wasn't some formula Jack and I used. Mm-hmm. But somebody asked that last week. Sarah, was that you?
Me, yeah. Thank you for bringing it. I appreciate it. It's weird to look at the dollar amounts and you can't accurately attribute what those amounts are for each kid because there's a lot of different factors in the way the state chooses to fund education. There's like a bunch of different categories of differentiated aid outside of the baseline adequacy payment.
Right, and then I looked at where they're spending it. I mean, it was amazing to see where where that money was going into what areas, like Sylvan Learning. I saw a number of dollars, not Concord, this was statewide, but these are organizations that are getting this EFA money. And Sylvan Learning, a Costco, so they must have been buying product of some sort and using their money to buy whatever.
Amazon
so they listed
is the largest receiver of state tax dollars through the voucher program.
That's right.
Uh-huh, yeah, it's good stuff. And Sylvan is interesting because they're a Learn Everywhere program, so they should be free to access. So the fact that they're getting voucher dollars is concerning. They're going up for their renewal tomorrow, on Thursday, actually. Thank you very much for getting this. It's something to chew on. Can I ask a question about the student count? So we started out with 8.3 students who left the district and took their adequacy aid with them. We don't know what that student count is for this current year, and they're anticipating that in next year it will only be 2. That's correct?
Yep. And we can
Okay.
load the sheets that they have. It does break out the detail, base, free and reduced, ELL, special ed.
Okay.
But for 24, they did not do that. Or at least I don't have a copy of it. I only
That's
have the amount.
interesting.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I've asked for it.
Do they mean additional, as in some students will return to the public school system, or, so like 8 left in 2023, 2 more will leave in 2024 or 25?
I don't know the answer
It
to
might
that
be
question.
graduation. There might be
Yeah.
graduates in this process, but that's the problem is like there's a certain percentage, I think it's like 25% of kiddos enrolled in vouchers did not return to the program after their first year, but we don't know where those kids are.
Right, that's what I'm wondering.
So that could be the case too. It could just be that they're no longer
Just dropped off.
participating. They just dropped off. But it looks like we'll probably wind up with a voucher increase in eligibility after this legislative session too. So that could cause.
Great point, though. I think I'll gather data about when we're enrolling kids. Where are you coming from?
Yeah.
And we don't usually do that, right? We request, the buildings request records from where they came from, but I don't get that kind of data. So that's an interesting point. I'm going to try to get a little, a sample of the kids and coming in and where they're coming from.
That would be great, and it could also help us understand if kiddos are leaving to participate in that program and they're choosing to come back, what was the thing that triggered their leaving in the first place? That can help us sort of like stave off that leak of state funds to the rest of the kids that are here, Thank you for going into that. I really appreciate it. I know it's not a traditional part of what we do, but it's something we really need to be paying close attention to as the program ultimately expands. And it's going
Kind
to
of
cause a lot of
amazed at the
problems.
student count. I mean, 2 is, I'm just surprised that that's all,
I know.
or even 8.
I mean, we're a good district. Concord is
Well,
a
I
place
know,
that
but
people want to be.
I understand that, and I'm happy about that, but
Mm-hmm.
still, I'm just surprised, I guess, at the numbers.
Yeah, I think from what I understand about the program is it's primarily targeting kiddos who have never been a part of the district before. So that's another 75% of kiddos in the program were always in a private or
Right.
homeschool situation. So that could be an element of this too. Is surprise, we're taking a kid you've never seen before, but we're still going to take adequacy aid away from your schools. Sorry, we could really go on a diatribe about this stuff. We can move on. Yeah.
We'll get you more
More
detail.
later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, positions and contracted service. So we have, I think, 3 slides here. These are the positions that are in your budget, okay? These are the reductions or adds that were put in that are already accounted for. So you can see there's the reduction at Beaver Meadow. There is the receptionist position at the high school that was added in October, if you remember, as a 1 year only, and they've requested that that stay. And then the communications director moving from 0.6 and 0.4 split between Perkins and general fund to now being 80-20. So basically 4 days here, 1 day Perkins. Don't feel they need to keep that going. So the net result of all that is a $13,000 savings. Again, this is all embedded already into the budget that's been presented.
Could the high school have just a school year receptionist? Do they really need a full-time? All the elementary schools only have their receptionist, administrative assistants in for the school year.
Well,
They
since
come in
you,
a little before and.
A few, yes,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yes.
yeah. You know what? And you bring that up, I'm going to confirm that, but I think it is a 220 day. So it is already. It's not a full year, but I'll confirm that.
Thank you.
I should have noted that. Yeah, yeah. because they thought, yeah, okay. So that's that one.
Just, we are gonna we're filling the BMS teacher vacancy, right? That's not, or is that the cut?
That's a cut because of retirement. Yep. Okay,
That's the one position that's.
okay. Now, this is staff that was requested that is not budgeted, so this is not in your numbers.
Okay.
You'll hear more about those first three
Yeah.
on Wednesday night. And then, and also, all those on Wednesday night, am I correct, Kim?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a presentation prepared for you for Wednesday night with justification statements.
I hope when we're gonna talk Wednesday night, that there's a real plan. Like, the kids who missed during COVID, they're still so far behind. We've seen no progress. It looks like we're seeing
So the
going
reason-
backwards, so.
Yeah, if I could put 6 in, I would. I have a statement from the Center of Education Policy Research that was done at Harvard University, and they simply say, statewide, the recovery has been slow in math, with average achievement rising by 0.14 grade equivalents between 22 and 23. Even if New Hampshire manages to continue improving at last year's rate of recovery, full recovery to 2019 level will require 3 more years after this one for students to gain achievements in math. So, so I do have a presentation around intentionality with coaches and a plan to present.
Can I ask Kim, when we were first establishing the desire to put the math coaches, it would keep them where they were, we had expressed, or at least I'll speak for myself, I had expressed an interest in hearing some kind of assessment as to the effectiveness of the position at the end of a year. I don't know if that's something that you may be presenting about that on Wednesday, but I just wanted to bring that up just to see if it is something you're going to touch on later.
I'll be touching on that on Wednesday, as well as the fact that we're going to have a new math program, K through 6, which will need a fair amount of support for training.
Okay.
And I just want to say that you're going to have to convince me that a new math program, changing how we do everything when we have kids who are several years behind, is the right solution, that we're not going to have teachers not going different ways and, and changing how they're learning things as we're trying to catch them up. I have questions.
We're using research from Ed Reports and looking at different programs. The programs that we piloted or looked at as a committee all were straight A's with Ed Reports, whereby our current one is not.
I mean, I think if we look at reading, it's been decades of teaching reading, right?
Yeah.
If you can't
Right.
read the math problems, but also,
Yeah.
but also Kim, saw that there was deficiency and immediately did something about it in terms of the reading, which has already made changes.
Yeah, the
in
foundations
those-
has been
I mean,
really good.
just in that amount of time, just making that changes. So I can see there's frustration. I mean, I'd love to see the reading completely in terms of the writing program too. So I imagine that there might be something wrong with the math as
Yes,
well that needs
although-
immediate attention.
Yeah.
And in this Harvard Policy Research, it says in New Hampshire, because it selected particular states to do kind of a nationwide sweep of post-pandemic, indicates that that students in New Hampshire lost 0.58 grade equivalents in math and 0.32 grade equivalents in reading. So it's 3/5 of the year in math that we've lost.
We can't fix like what the pandemic we lost in the pandemic. It's going to take that time. So I think like the best we
But
can
we
do
seem to be
is-
doing worse than other districts at doing that.
So are we in reading?
Well, exactly, yeah.
Well, that's
Mr.
probably
Richards.
the demographic of the district. I mean,
The other thing is too, remember, when they move from grade to grade, so doesn't the competencies that they're expected to learn. So,
Yeah.
if they struggled with subtraction, which we saw was a problem, right? Then that's going to impact them. Now they're doing division in 5th grade, right? 4th and 5th grade, they're doing long division, and they're struggling a little bit with it because of some of those factors. So I wish there was a simple way to address it, but You know, that compounds them as they move up.
Mr. Richards?
Yeah, so to just follow up on Ms. Welch's question though is, if we switch a math program, are the teachers gonna do much better with that math program, or are they gonna have to learn a whole new program and, and be able to, will our teachers who require math coaches now gonna need even more coaching to try to switch to a new program, or is this program really easy and everybody's gonna
It's the same
learn
thing
it?
what's going on right now with reading, foundations. Not every teacher's trained in that, right?
So-
They had to take.
They got the training and their scores went up.
And exactly,
Okay.
and maybe they're not all as efficient as they all should be and gotten as much training as they need to be. I mean, that's my concern. But we see that it's already happened with foundations, and the idea is that each teacher, I would hope, each teacher wants to say, I want to be better. I want to teach my kids aren't learning. I want to do something maybe even outside of professional development.
And I don't disagree with it, but you have to teach them and they have to have the training to be able to step into a new program at a point when
We've just invested for the past several years in math coaches to help them with the existing program, so
yeah.
that's
So that's
what
why
I'm
the
saying.
question, that's where the question comes, we have to make that call.
I would rather advocate for a better curriculum and professional development than keeping math interventionists. I think the curriculum is the root of the conversation between an instructor or an educator and a student. And like the science around this stuff is changing all the time. I think updating is always wise. And we've got a pretty killer staff. Our teachers are amazing. And I think Foundations is a really great example about how folks are implementing it in the classroom to the best of their ability, and we're seeing improvements. I would expect no less with a math program, with an updated math curriculum.
And I'm not disagreeing with you.
Oh, I know, yeah.
But I'm asking the question because I
Yeah.
think the question needs to be asked.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad you asked it.
I just ask a totally unrelated question. Can you talk briefly about what we're doing with world language in middle school?
Yeah.
Amazing things.
They did
I know.
a
I know.
presentation for us, I think
Okay,
you
I
were
wasn't
away.
It would
right.
be extended to 7th grade and move the exploratory to 6th grade.
Which languages? Or,
All
oh, okay.
So right now, the
Spanish,
seventh
French,
graders get
Latin,
these
and
little,
German.
so in seventh grade, they get an exploratory, and in eighth grade, can they take a full language in eighth grade?
Yeah.
And they just wanna move it down so that incoming sixth graders get the exploratory, and then seventh and eighth grade can both take a language all year.
I strongly support that.
Yeah.
That's-
Oh yeah, it's
The presentation was phenomenal, they
Yeah,
really
they
did
did
their
a
work.
great job.
Sorry, that's.
Lots of flexibility and.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a hard sell on including the math interventionists. When we talked about this last budget session, I said I would approve this for one more year to make sure that we are giving kiddos some supports that they need. And then we just have to phase it out. It was a part of ESSER funding. A bunch of other positions hit that cliff and are now gone. And I would argue that they were potentially more important than math coaches. So yeah, I'm gonna be a really hard sell on that, just being fully transparent.
Yeah, I think it's a second, Sarah. I'm just going back to the whole reading. If a child is not learning how to read, let me say the old intervention, right? Is that program? Am I saying it right?
We know what you mean, yeah.
Because it's not curriculum, it's the
a program,
The
yeah.
program used. So if they're not learning on that, but yet they hire a tutor, which is one of the teachers from the school, who is using that same poor program,
Yeah.
then the child is just getting a repetitive, whether it's through Title I with the same level of literacy, whether it's having the same teacher who's teaching Fontes Manel teach them outside, they're not getting the material. It's a poor instruction. So if it's the math interventionist who is just doing the same thing that might not be appropriate for that child, it seems that the teacher having the full development of their professional development,
It's more
doing
effective.
it well is more effective.
And I'd like to see those positions go back into the classrooms. Put one at Beaver Meadow, put one back at Millbrook, where you get the
There's more
smaller
teachers.
class sizes, more direct time, one-on-one with the
Brenda.
students. So that's where I'm headed, just so you know where I'm headed.
Well, none of these positions, Are in the budget.
None of
right
them
now.
are in the budget.
Right.
So just to
That's
keep
true.
that in
That's
mind.
true.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
These
don't-
are add-ons, yeah.
These are add-ons, that's right.
And don't forget, in addition to the foundations, you know, we put in Haggerty in kindergarten, and that was all that phonetic-based work. And I know I don't want to give away the secret, but Kim is going to talk to you a little bit about some more of phonics kinds of programs for our young readers. So to support that quote unquote science of reading. But we'll still have the joy of reading around a lot of good literature, which is available in the schools. So I think it looks like a really good combination. But you know, there's no one easy answer. And I struggle. I'm going to talk about the interventionists, because we have kids that are still far behind, and the research is very clear that given tutoring in small groups or one-on-one, or you know, like 3 or 4 youngsters with them, and I agree that it has to be current material, it has to be strong curriculum, teachers have to know how to use it. You know, every teacher has had new curriculum materials over the course of their career. You all know that, right? But I'm concerned, unless we really target those youngsters, we're just sending them on to middle school, and I want them in algebra in 8th grade, and I can't get them there. So I'm not, I understand what you're saying, Sarah, and I
We do
don't
have
want to.
reading interventionists in the schools.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm aware that we have them, but this is kind of what I was talking about in our last meeting. Is like we're presented with a budget, and this is where we're at, right? This is the number, this is the increase. And then we're presented with a lot of really good arguments for continuing to increase the budget. And we have to come down to, okay, now we're like parsing out, do we value reading over math? And it just doesn't feel like a fair conversation. So that's why I brought that up at our first meeting. It's like, why aren't we setting an amount or setting a percentage that we feel comfortable with as a board and saying, can you fit within these parameters, and what are you stuck on when it comes to those parameters? You know what I mean?
Well, we have some more information for you too as we move through this tonight.
Okay, cool.
So that may help you.
All right.
May I ask, are these the only staff increases that are not currently in the budget? Or are there other staff increases or decreases that are either budgeted for or are not budgeted for?
Staff that you own in the general fund, where they're your employees.
Yeah.
These 2 slides, what's in it is in the first slide, this is not in, that's it.
Okay, so there are no new central office positions coming in?
No,
No other instructors or anything like that?
no.
There's one more position on the next page, though. I looked.
Yeah, that's a contracted service, it's not our
Contracted
employee.
service,
Okay.
Can I ask one clarifying question?
Yeah.
What is the difference between a math interventionist and a math coach?
Well, we've been working really closely with Chantel to talk about the very conversation that, where are the incremental improvements with student performance in math. And the coaching has really been focused on teacher capacity, learning about OGAP, learning really about algebraic thinking, learning about the standards, the competencies, coaching the teachers. And the math interventionist would, since we haven't been able to hire any tutors, we're looking at this position being doing much more classroom intervention with students, working with students, along with a portion of it being helping teachers with being highly effective with the new program. So in one of the positions, I feel very, very strongly that at the high school, we have a department head for math, and at the elementary, we have Chantel who works with teachers in math, but at Runlet Middle School, we have a void. And I feel really strongly that Runlet needs that support.
Ms. Hazel?
The math interventionists aren't specialists, is that correct?
They are not. In order to be a math specialist, you have to be certified in math, and it's a very difficult position to obtain.
But we have reading specialists who are certified in reading.
Yeah, yes. And the difference between the math specialist, the position, according to the credentialing, is that you have to have a degree in math. So it's just not a popular, you think about it, anyone who has a degree in math is probably not looking for an elementary interventionist position.
No, I understand. I just think that it's gonna be very easy to think, oh, now we have these math interventionalists that are the same thing as a reading specialist, but they're not the same thing. They're classroom teachers who might have a specialty in math, but do not have a degree in math.
Correct.
Ms. Robinson?
Yeah, so we budgeted specifically for tutors, and we were not able to fill those positions.
That's correct.
Could we take what was budgeted for tutors, eliminate those positions in order to accommodate math interventionists? Since we can't fill the positions anyway.
Price is like, it's a huge difference in costs. I just want you to know that. I'll do I
Yeah.
haven't done that analysis about the money. Remember, it was ESSER money too. So I'll take a look at what was in the ESSER grant. I'll have to do that and see what's available and what the cost of the 3 interventionists are, and do a comparison for you. I'm just not sure, Sarah.
Okay, yeah, because I'm just.
But that's what you want.
I mean, that's just what we've been told, is that, you know, we really need these tutors. No one wants to do it. We've reached out to retired teachers. Even they don't want to come back and do those positions. Why are we trying to fill something that we're not able to fill if Ms. Yarlott is going to advocate for these positions that would essentially be doing that role, correct? They would be working with students?
Working with students directly.
Okay.
And.
That sounds like tutoring, right? So.
But also working on the new program, working on
Yes.
the capacity building.
Okay, good.
So to follow on with that, and I think what Ms. Robinson is asking, and I would ask too, is what amount do you have in this budget for tutors? And if we eliminated that math tutor, or eliminated the math tutors that we haven't been able to hire and it's still sitting there in the budget, what amount would that be? And could you just reduce the budget by that amount and add it in on an interventionist line?
Got it.
Yeah, thank you for translating what I was trying to say. I wasn't communicating
I know
well.
exactly
I
what you
got
wanted
it.
to say, but from a line item type of.
Yeah,
Just
thank you.
Moving money.
Yeah, just moving things from one place to another.
Yeah.
I know it's not an ideal situation. We still need tutors. But if we're not able to get them and we've gone through all of the routes, you know, how long do you hold on?
Yeah, it's just like other positions that we have. I mean, we struggle with substitutes, we struggle with tutors, we struggle with paraprofessionals, and those are the 3 areas that have been
Yeah.
challenging to
Yeah.
us. And by the way, we did, you know, the tutors, we put it up at $50 an hour. It wasn't like we were trying to say, okay, it's $18 an hour. No, we put it up to $50 an hour to attract people, and we still didn't attract them.
No kidding.
And so it's been,
I know, right?
I know.
Brush off my
Yep.
math.
Did you say?
You don't need a
Where's
certification
my
in it.
textbook?
Yeah. And one more question, just because I'm gonna beat the horse until it's pulp. So these folks don't have a math certification, but based on the way that we're allowed to place educators in schools, if they have like specialties, they're allowed to teach up to like 50% of.
Well, we
one
can
thing
do
or
that, yeah, sure, if they were teaching in a teaching position, but these tutors don't require that.
Okay, so we could theoretically put them in places we need them if they have capacity and utilize their talents and skills.
Well, you know, one of the things I did, based on the request from the board early on, was I went through and with the help of our assessment coordinator, we identified how many students that were at level 2 in math in every school in grades 4 and 5. So I know exactly how many in every building and the kinds of kids that need that extra help, and I chose 2, and so that, you know, with the extra tutoring, again, based on, you know, direct service and at least 3 times a week, and that's, you know, 3 half-hour sessions, right? That we would see an increase in the student performance and up to level 3, which is where we want them to be at grade level, but.
Yeah.
Without that additional support for them and that small group, it has to be small now. I'm not talking about 8 kids in a tutoring session. We're talking about, you know, 3, 2, 3, max maybe 4. But we have identified and we have all that data.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Thank you for indulging me.
Anyone else? Mr. Dunn?
Okay. And then this is contracted service, so this is something we pay another organization for. They are not our employee, and that is an SRO at Runlet. So this is similar to what we do at the high school. We pay for an SRO there. They've requested, this is in your budget numbers currently.
It is.
It is.
I have said before, and I will say again, I'm sorry to jump in, an SRO at the middle school is the hill I will die on. I do not want to add police officers to schools. I would rather spend that money on a math interventionist.
May I ask, is this at the recommendation of the principal?
Yes. And in with discussions, Kara, with Concord PD, you know, they come and they're at the school, and I've had, and Jay too, met with, last month, met with Chief Osgood, who also supported it.
Hastings?
Is that 98,000 or 40? It's 75% of his or her position. Is it for the school year only, or is it for a year's contract for that officer?
So the school year only.
School year only?
Yeah, that total number is like 137, but we pay 75% of every item. And that comes out to about the 177 to 180 days. What they do is in November, they give us the bill for the year, and then on that it says, here's your estimate for next fiscal year. And all I did,
75% of,
the total yearly wage,
Okay.
health, everything.
so
And
it
they
is the
break it all
total
out.
year, not
Yeah.
just the school year?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, it's the full year, but remember, 75% of it is us. So they give you the full year amount, and then they
Yeah.
take 75% of the total. Because they're gonna be a police officer out in the community during the summer, because there's no kids here.
Okay,
So they pay
Does that make
the time
sense?
that they're in school.
yeah.
So like the
your-
all-in
yeah,
number is
Mr.
137, you take 75% of that, that's how you get
Okay.
this. So I just duplicated what the high school is, I just used the same number. Could be higher, could be lower, depending on the health plan they pick and all that other
Okay.
stuff, so.
Yeah,
okay.
that makes sense. Thank you.
Ms. Campbell?
Do we have a job description for what they do?
We have
Yeah, we do. I'll get it for you,
Okay,
yes.
please.
Yes.
And who is the SRO accountable to? Do they roll up to you or to the city? How does that work?
They work directly for the principal, but
Okay.
they're also still Concord Police Department employees.
Okay.
But they do report to the principal.
Ms. Robinson?
I would make a motion to remove the SRO from the current budget.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Meeker. Is there further discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Can we do a roll call, please, Ms. Meeker?
This is for removing the SRO position from the current budget.
Yes.
Ms. Boucher?
Doesn't mean
Yeah.
it can be removed later.
Sorry?
I just think
Right.
it's early to do it, but
Right.
I think this, it's more than, you have very strong feelings about it, and I appreciate that, but there's a lot of discussion that goes into removing something from the budget, and I think we have time to do that as this process goes along. So that's just my opinion.
Is that a motion to table? I mean, are we in discussion?
We're in a vote.
Okay.
So we should, Ms. Boucher, I think it
Ms.
was Ms.
Boucher.
Boucher.
Yeah.
Ms. Campbell?
I don't feel like I have enough information to make a call on this.
You can abstain.
I think I
We're
am.
saying-
Yeah, I would like the job description. I'd like to understand a little bit more before I do something with that. Yeah,
All right. You abstain?
please.
Mr. Cotton?
No.
Ms. Hastings?
No.
Ms. Higgins?
No.
Mr. Richards?
No.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
I am going to vote no because I probably will vote to remove it, and I think we need somebody on the prevailing side to reconsider the motion.
Okay, thank you.
And I am a yay.
Okay.
That loses 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and with one abstention.
So, but this can be revisited.
Reconsider
What
later.
was the vote? Yes.
It was 3 yeas, 6 noes, and 1 abstention.
3, 5,
That's
1.
Sorry, 5.
I
I got it now, guys. Where's that math interventionist?
She needs a math intervention.
Bring it. Now, see, now I'm not eligible for the job.
Well, we'll only pay you $9.50.
Yeah.
Okay.
49.50, right.
What you wanna do. in
Right,
terms of
right,
actually see
right.
the big
There's a lot to
picture.
talk about.
You may think differently at the end, and it does give you that advantage.
Okay, I'll try to move through this pretty quickly and you can ask questions. This is posted publicly, it's in your folder, but I'll highlight the stuff we need to highlight, and this is in the budget book. Kind of the detail of the salaries, the differences between FY '24 and FY '25. Again, that difference, 2.2 million or 4.28% increase.
Can we just look at substitutes
Mhm.
and just if you could highlight that and
Yep.
where
the-
we are compared to, that's 22, 23.
Oh, no, it's not. Sorry, when I copied the template, I just didn't change
Okay.
the thing. So that is 24, 25. I will edit that and post that correctly. So you mean as far as you have permanent subs, which cover,
Oh, I see.
yep. That's going up because the rate's going up. And then the call-in subs might be the next slide.
So how does
I
that
left-
compare to where we are year-to-date and pre-COVID?
I'll put that together for you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. And the same with the permanent subs in terms of numbers of people, I
Yep.
think.
Mhm.
Yeah, can I make a comment on that?
Pam?
Yeah.
Because I did authorize the principals, we had a couple of periods of time when it was really difficult. You know, we had a COVID outbreak in 2 of our schools, and we've seen a lot of flu, the COVID, other issues. So I did authorize it. A couple of the schools did manage to find somebody part-time to fill in as a permanent sub. So you'll see those numbers a little wonky because I did say, get what you can to help you cover the schools. And I mean, we heard, even today I heard that, you know, our principals and our assistants are covering classes when they have to. And we actually send people over from central office. So, I mean, we'll do whatever we can to help them because that has also been an area that's been very challenging for us.
And this is a repeat from the opening presentation, this slide.
Mr.
Okay.
Richardson, I think had a question.
Yeah, I was just gonna go back to the salaries and just ask the question, with regards to the salaries of technical staff.
Yeah.
Is that additional people or just increase?
No, remember, we got eliminated the director, so that moved from salary office central administration to that line.
Okay, so that's a
That's
reallocation of lines.
The 1140,
Um,
is that the line you're looking at?
611220, salaries for technical staff.
Yeah, 611220.
Yep.
Oh, okay, wow, yeah.
It's probably above the 1 year?
Yeah, I was
looking
looking at, the $137,000 increase in 140. The 24.36% increase.
Yeah, we'll discuss that. Not, and
Oh,
not public.
okay.
Okay?
I have a clarification question about travel stipend.
Yep.
For instance, we have some people traveling for a conference in the next few days. I'm just curious, I'm assuming the district covers that travel for administrators to go to conferences and things like that. Is that in this budget?
Yes, it would be under the conference and travel line under the benefits.
Okay.
So
Not-
what I did
not
is I went
translated.
and looked and thought about increasing it because I see like a lot of activity.
Mm-hmm.
But as I looked at the history of all the conference and travel lines, there was money available. It just really matters too of where it is available. So collective bargaining agreements have allotted amounts.
Mm-hmm.
So you have personal contracts that have allotted amounts. And some of them don't have any restrictions as far as how much and some do. But overall, there's been enough money, so I didn't think this was a year to up that. The only thing you'll see in the benefits that I did is course reimbursement for unaffiliated staff. Because we
I
do
really
have.
thought you said horse reimbursement. I was gonna be like,
That's in
yes.
CRTC where we've got agriculture nominated.
We don't spend too much on travel. Yeah.
Just by horse.
But that's only, you gotta go by horse.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. So yeah, we'll discuss that. Okay. And then on the benefits side, I addressed that slide. I do have one in here on healthcare that's pretty interesting. So this is the benefits, as I mentioned to you there. That was the increase. We went from 18 to 24. Not every single one, but a majority of the unaffiliated contracts all allow up to 9 credits of course reimbursement. So if I budgeted every single one of them, it'd be a heck of a lot higher than that number. But historically, we've been running okay, but we're aware of ones that are taking courses and might impact that. So we just tweaked it a little bit, okay? And then this was bargained. That's why that's going from 15 to 19. And then you see the workers' comp that is in your book, and you'll also see the slide. It is going down. It is not because the rating is overall great or because of the rate itself is going down. It's mostly because staff is dropping off because of the grants. We had a lot of people in ESSER, so that's what I see. As the payroll goes down, that'll adjust accordingly. So it's not a big drop, but you know we put it. Okay. And then New Hampshire retirement. Fortunately, there is no change this year. But next September, they'll probably be publishing the new rates for the biannual, and that will affect your 26 budget, because that is looked at every 2 years. Yep.
I would encourage everyone to talk to any of our legislators, because there is at least a bill in there that would give 7%, not a lot, better than 0, but a 7% contribution to retirement to help school districts out, in cities and towns actually, relative to those costs. Not a lot, but it's at least a step in the right direction.
And just some historical information from the last 15 years. The state used to pay for 35% of our portion, of the school district's portion. Then it went down to 25, and then at the economic downturn in 10-11, it went to 0, and has been 0 since. So of those rates, 75% of that is to pay for debt, because there is a tail that will not be paid off till 2039. So there's another 15, 16 years or 14, 15 years of service, but all depends on how the investments do. So we'll have an idea next September. I think June they'll start to give indications, because they do experience studies, and then the experience study comes forward, and then the actuarials make recommendations on what the rate should be, and then it'll start filtering out to us, and then their board finalizes it, I believe, in September, and then that will be what we'll use for your budget next year. Okay. Health. We give you an overall census of budget to budget comparison. So you can see here that we had single 255. Now we're moving to 270. We went from 85 on a 2-person plan. Current budget went down to 69, but we've seen an increase of 16 going to 271 on the family plan. So the net total is that we're up 15 from last year. We have 595 on the plan, up to 610. So you add people that are on the plan, and then you add the 9.7% increase. That's why you're about $1 million increase in health insurance. So we do offer, for not all groups, everybody does have the yellow with choice fund. That is an HRA, a health reimbursement account. And then we have began dropping into unaffiliated and certain collective bargaining groups the orange plan, which offers a HSA, which is a health savings account. And I have a slide here that's going to show you the impact in working with the board and our unions, how we've gotten to where we've gotten. And if we did not and put it on cruise control, what that number could be today. Okay? So this shows you for rates what the active employees, what that amount is for the plan. So you can see the yellow plan is $35,000 for it annually for a family, and the orange plan is $27,000. And then this shows you a range between the lowest contribution to the highest contribution that people will pay. And now we've been sticking this in here so that some pay nothing for the premium, and some pay 5%, some pay 15%. Hence why you see a 0 all the way up to an amount. But the orange plan is a higher deductible. I mean, the orange plan is a higher deductible. And it's the way we only see on your second largest item to make inroads in your budget. Okay? So this is a breakdown of what those contributions would be if somebody is on a single yellow and the employee pays 5%, they're paying $647.10 a year for their medical. The district is paying $12,492.90 for the medical. So this chart shows you by the type what the district pays and what an employee may be potentially paying. And the same thing on the orange plan, which is the one we're in the process of rolling out to a majority of the groups as we bargain that in, or if they're unaffiliated. And we can talk about that at another time. Okay. We did a 3-year trend. We have all the way back to 11-12. If you want it, I can send that, showing you what the market trend has been for the medical trend has been for us. Barslow has been doing this since we've been our consultant, and working with them, working with the board, you'll see the kind of inroads that we've made. Hence my next slide. So I'm calling this health cost avoidance. So in 11-12, a majority of our staff were at that point were at 15% contribution towards an HMO plan, and that is now called the green plan. So that green plan is available. 17% of school care's business is school districts that are still on this plan. If we had done nothing and left that on cruise control, instead of paying $13.2 million that we have budgeted, you'd be paying $17 million or $4 million more. And employees would be paying $1.4 million more. If what we did is we took the current census and went back to when we started this whole process of trying to bring in new plans. If we had not, that's where you'd be today. Mm-hmm. So $4 million alone is about 4.2% on the tax rate, just right there. So it shows the impact you can have over time when you work on these big ticket items. Okay? Our early retirees, so certain groups have that benefit in where the retirement is paid up to the age of 65. We've seen that dwindle over the years. Most of that was because the state also contributed towards single and two-person plan when they eliminated the retirement contribution for the cities and school districts. They eliminated that contribution for new people that were retiring. So we've seen as that happened, because that number used to be over 100. And as that went away, the number of people requesting that went down. And then on the dental side, down about 12, but we're seeing utilization going up. If you remember that from the finance committee, we had our consultants here and school care here talking about the trends in dental are going up. This was the Workers' comp, I mentioned, going down about $9,000. That's the notice that they sent us. As I said, it tells you payroll is up. Your change in payroll up 1.2%, and our experience rating went down a little bit, but we're seeing a 2.2% or $9,400 decrease. Workers' comp, we did cut that a little bit, looking at that historically, going back even to 18 and 17, we have not been really utilizing it. So I did drop it 10,000 in this budget. And then finally, the life and ADD, where the rates, although they held, when salaries go up, the contribution goes up. So this gives you a census by group of the totals, and that's what's contributing to that increase. Okay. And then on the revenue side, this is just your total appropriation and then where it's coming from, whether it's local, state, federal, or transfers in from your trusts, savings from the prior year, and then the state education tax as well as the local tax. And then at a high level, this is the slide from the other night where we give you a breakdown of that local, state, federal transfers, the unassigned fund balance, and your overall local revenue. And then we went into the detail of what each of those revenue lines mean. And I'll let you look at that, and if you have any questions, I'll scoot through this. Then we go into the state with some clickable links explaining what the state revenue is. And then, yep.
Go back.
Mm-hmm. So remember that FSA, there's that number.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. And then a lot of the voc stuff that comes in to help offset your budget, except for the capital. When that comes in, goes out. That was down here in this differentiated aid. Okay?
So just to clarify, we are seeing an increase in a special education revenue? Special education aid? That's what I'm reading correctly? So if it was in the parenthetical, it means it's a loss? Just trying to read this like all the other
yeah,
ones.
sorry, no, it's going down. We had 787 last year, now they're estimating 650.
Okay, so we are losing
Yeah.
support for special education.
Yeah. And a lot of times what the state does is they do a percentage of a percentage. So they'll tell you, this is your entitlement, but we're only going to pay you a fraction of
Yeah.
that. Now, the last couple of years,
Pretty
they have
typical.
given you a higher contribution because they had excess funds. We've been seeing that, but we think that's going to start fading out.
I mean, the education trust fund has a predicted $200 million surplus right now.
Yeah, the challenge you have with that is it's not consistent funding, and then they do these one-shot gimmicks like they did with the tax rate the year
Yeah.
before, goes
Yeah.
down, then goes right back up. And
Yeah, it's just
yeah,
giving people
election
false
years,
hope.
everybody looks like superstars.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then this is that breakdown from the other night that we gave on the decrease in state adequacy. Focused on that. Where was I? On that extraordinary needs grant, which they were trying to hold districts harmless in this transition piece to this new adequacy formula. And then finally, the federal revenue. That first line will continue to go down and then will go away in 2027 budget. That is for the bonds for the Runlet HVAC system. And as that debt goes down, the amount you get reimbursed goes down. And then Medicaid, we're expecting a small drop in that. And again, that's a guesstimate based on the cases, and it's not an exact science. And then E-rate, right now it's Category 1 funding, so that just really is reimbursement for our internet. They used to reimburse phone lines. They don't do that anymore. And then we are looking, as you look a little bit into the future, For the middle school project, we'll be looking at what's called Category 2 funding, which is infrastructure. And that comes around every 5 years, and we're thinking timing-wise, that may coincide with our next upgrade.
Nice.
So that will be good. And as we said, the number that was put in your building aid application didn't include any of that at all, so, okay? And then finally, the tax impact. I'm just reiterating from opening presentation. Looking at potentially $126 on a $300,000 home. So 2.94 on the local, 1.27 for the state, for a combined of 2.77 or 42 cents. And then finally, this was the same slide from the other night, showing you your transfers, how much we have coming out of your trust funds and what we have planning to be deposited into your trust funds. And then finally, fees that the district charges, which isn't much. You have the athletic fees by sport. There's a small bus transportation fee, and then there are the facility use fees. We did, well, in this budget, we're student services proposing the elimination of tuition for preschool. That is about 35 to 40,000, and they'll have more on that on Wednesday night. So there is no revenue budgeted for next year for preschool. Okay. And then all the work sessions are posted. This is what you worked on Wednesday night.
Jack, can I ask, so I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Do you have these slides for these presentations done already? Or do you do them, like, do you have Wednesday night's slides ready to go?
Oh, you mean like next Monday?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I work on these all the way up until.
Until.
Because I gotta, yeah.
I was just thinking as a,
Yep.
I like hard copy.
Sure.
And it would be, I'd like to be able to take notes on things.
Yep. Yeah.
And I was
can
thinking if we
print
could
them.
get like Wednesdays tonight, I could look it over, write
Sure.
some notes in them, but if you don't have them that far in advance,
Yeah.
it would be helpful if we could at least get hard copies that the night of the
Sure.
meeting.
Yeah, I can do
With that,
Yep.
I don't know if I don't know, most people probably don't need that, but maybe a few
Yeah.
do.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then this is your proposed work session, the public information, which this is updated. And there you go, your favorite board members. That's for the public, not for you folks. And then this is posted. I'll bring that up real quick. Let me just make sure, oh yeah, that's the end of my presentation. So let me just pull that up if I can. Yep.
You know what? A good point is that, you know, Jack has always had an open office store. You could take this and walk through it with him too. If
No,
you-
I know, but like even tonight, I take notes
Yeah,
on the paper,
right,
so if
right,
I could
right.
put a note on the
Right on the
page.
budget page.
And I
okay.
can print them out as
Yeah,
well.
we can print them, that's not a problem. I just didn't know if you wanted to sit and like even go into more depth. That's available to you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So this is posted on the website. As I mentioned, it has each of your names. I've already been told I have to adjust the vision, so my apologies. I will update that and repost it. But each of your names are all clickable. So if you click the name, it will open up their email and automatically populate FY25 budget question.
Cool.
Automatically.
Nice.
And then there is the carte blanche one that I think goes to, so right there in the corner of every page, there's a little question mark. When you click it, it goes to a generic budget at SAU, automatically has it set for FY25 budget question version 1.0. Because as we update this, it'll change the version numbers. And it'll email.
Clever.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
and it is clickable as well. So if I want to go and I want to see function by object, bam.
Nice.
That'll do that. If I want to see up here, not all this is filled in like the budget summaries, but if I want to see the bus transportation vehicle plan, I click it, it takes you to it. Okay? So that is a 77-page PDF at the moment, but we will add to it throughout the process.
Thank you.
And that is all I have, with 3 minutes to spare.
Questions?
Thank you, that's a ton of work.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks very much.
I think the most important part of your discussion was the beginning. Just my opinion. I thought that was good that you can hash that kind of stuff out. That's good, because that's the kind of stuff we need to hear and help you prepare for Wednesday,
Yeah.
right?
To a note.
She's like, yeah.
Can't wait.
You already have an appointment at 8:30.
might not.
so
Yeah, exactly.
We'll work through it, but that's, I felt like tonight is what we need
Yeah.
you guys doing, so it was great.
Something that happens every meeting is that we hear different information from you. So we go back tomorrow morning at 8:30, we're gonna be with Kim, making sure that we have the questions, trying to anticipate what you need.
Yeah.
So that's why sometimes it's finished and it can be, you know, but we do make changes based on what we hear.
Great.
Anybody else have anything for Jack or the superintendent on this issue? If I could trouble you all for a short non-public, if somebody would make a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Robinson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Boucher.
Do you need me to read it out loud, or are we good?
Maybe just
Say the first.
A3, room 2,
Non-public session too. Yeah, I think we just took care of that. Thank you.
and C. It's part of the motion.
Yeah.
Kara, who made the motion?
I
Sarah
did.
Robinson and then Liz Boucher seconded.
Okay.
If we could have a roll call.
Absolutely. Ms. Boucher,
Here.
Ms. Campbell.
Here. That's not actually a vote here.
Oh, are we voting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, sorry,
To go into non-public.
I'm here.
All good, all good. Yes.
Yes, all right, that sounds
Yes.
good. Ms. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Cotton.
Aye.
Ms. Hastings.
Yes.
Ms. Higgins.
Aye.
Mr. Richards.
Aye.
Ms. Robinson.
Yep.
Ms. Walsh.
Yes.
And I am a yes.
Thank you, everybody. Mr. Sargent, thank you for coming tonight. We're going to ask you to clear the room. We will not be coming back into public session except to close the meeting. So we will let our Concord TV friends go home.
Yes, a brief recess so that.
Yep.